Okay, so how will we calculate it? First, IP, incidence in the population. The number of cases, because remember they're all new in cohort studies, over the total sample because they're all at risk. So if we do that math, 63 over 333, and then we see it's per 100, so we have our 100 multiplier, equals 18.9. But that's not a sufficient enough answer on its own. The full answer for this would be 18.9 carries per 100 pop. So for every 100 people, every 100 5-year-old kids, there would be 18.9 carries. All right, the next one we were calculating is relative risk. Relative risk is the incidence in the exposed over the incidence in the not exposed. So if we go and calculate this, we got 39 over 260 divided by 24 divided by 73. And if we do out that math, we come up with the answer of 0.45625, which if we're rounding is 0.5. How do we interpret that? Individuals, who brushed twice daily at 2 had 0.5 times the risk of caries at 5 years old. All right, so those are our first two. 0.5 times the risk, so it's protective. It's our very first time that we've had a protective factor. And the next two calculations are going to look wildly different because it is a protective factor. So, what do they look like? Our very first one is our risk difference. How do we calculate a risk difference? It's the difference between the incidence in the exposed minus the incidence in the not exposed. So if we go back and we look at our exposed, so 39 divided by 260 minus 24 divided by 73. Now when you put this in your calculator, because we have to have a multiplier, it doesn't make sense. And in this case, I asked you per 100. When you put it in the calculator, what you want to do is put these brackets around things and these parentheses so that your math comes out right. And when you do, you come up with negative 17.8767, which we round to negative 17.9. However, per usual, that is not a sufficient number unto itself. So how do we interpret this? Negative 17.9. What does that mean? So it means that individuals who brushed twice daily had 17.9 less caries per 100 pop than those who brushed less than twice daily. Essentially, those in the exposure were protected. They had less of the health outcome. A negative risk difference means protective, which we already knew from our relative risk of being less than 1. It means less of the health outcome. All right. So when you get a negative one, it's less of the health outcome, not more. All right, we have one more to do, which is the population risk difference. So, pop risk difference. And this one, you need the incidence in the population minus the incidence in the not exposed. So, in order to get the incidence of the population, we had 63 over 333. And remember, we're going to do the same exact math in our calculator, so really it's going to look like this in our calculator. Minus 24 over 73 times 100, because that's our multiplier to understand our data. I have to put this one in my calculator still, so give me a second. And the answer is negative 13.95. So we round up to negative 14. What does that negative 14 mean? If we brush less than, rather, stop doesn't make much sense. If you brush less than twice daily, you'd have 14 more cavities. More caries per 100 pop. So if we eliminate the exposure of brushing twice daily, if we eliminate that exposure, we're going to have 14 more caries per 100 pop. That's what it means when you have a negative number for the pop RD. That if you eliminate the exposure, you're going to have more of the health outcome. And that makes sense because it protects you from getting the health outcome.